Today we're talking about this one, number 43, The Test, the next in the shorter line of Tobias books, and this one was ghost written by Ellen Giroux. So we've seen Ellen Giroux twice before. The first one was book 33, the previous Tobias book, which I gave a pretty low score. I did not like that book at all. And the next book after that was book 41, which we only saw 2 books ago, and it was The Familiar, which I thought was an utterly outstanding book. So we've seen the two extremes, in my opinion, of Ellen Giroux's skill. One, not great, the other, excellent. How does this book fit in? So let's jump into it, shall we? As with The Familiar, I think the writing is pretty good. Overall, I think the characters are largely in character. In fact, I think really in character. Entirely. Mostly. There are some issues with how the book is written, and we will get into that as we go through the plot because it is largely plot related. But apart from that, I think Ellen Giroux has done a really good job again. We start off with Tobias flying around. There's a kid missing. There's a storm approaching. It's this kid called Bobby McIntyre, and he's been lost. There's a search party out for him, and things aren't looking good because the storm is coming in, lightning, rain, all that sort of stuff. So Tobias is flying around, and he eventually finds this kid in a sinkhole, and that sinkhole's of course going to be flooding with water, and there's very limited time. So he goes and flies off to find the search party, and Bobby's dad is there, noticeable because he's got like a name tag. And Tobias does something very risky, incredibly risky actually, and he talks to Bobby's dad and basically tells him this is where we need to go. So Bobby's dad finds a bunch of people, go out, and they find Bobby. He's saved. Excellent job. I really liked Tobias in this chapter. I really did. For a long while, I think Tobias's character has become very stale. For example, in the last book, book 33, we didn't really learn anything new, which was one of my major problems with that book. We got these massive torture scenes and we didn't learn anything new. We just expounded upon things we already did know. But Tobias in this book is almost, he's developed in some way from the get-go. I get the feeling, and it's probably been around before, but it's more obvious now, that Tobias sees himself as somebody who knows that he's had a shit life. He's had very little to him, but he doesn't want other people to suffer that fate. He wants other people to achieve things that he didn't achieve, to have the good life that he didn't. And that's an excellent character trait. And I really liked Tobias, especially at the start of this book. So he goes out deliberately find Bobby, even though the storm's coming, because he wants to make sure that this kid is safe. Excellent stuff. The only problem with Tobias' plan is the obvious one. The fact that Bobby's dad knows, hold on, this hawk was talking to me. So that does provide a certain issue. And as Tobias is flying away from the scene, he gets attacked by a golden eagle, taken down. And thankfully for him, he gets rescued by, like, I don't know, bird watchers or something, and gets taken to like a veterinary place, and he's put in a cage, and he's being treated. But now he's stuck in this cage with a whole load of other birds, and one of the veterinarians is obviously talking to this bird, as sometimes you do with animals, obviously not thinking they know what you're talking about, but Tobias did in this instance. And they say, you're the hero bird, you're the red-tailed hawk, that the guy... I mean, you'd think, how does she know it's that red-tailed hawk? But, you know, when you're having a conversation with animals, you don't tend to use much logic, and you might make those connections. So, yeah, I understand it. But then Tobias realises, oh shit, that means the Yerks will catch on to that and they'll probably come for me. And come for him they do. So a bunch of Yerks come in, grab Tobias's cage and run out. But then there's a battle between controllers. So there's a bunch of Hawkbajir who've taken Tobias, and a bunch of human controls come in and they have like a shootout. And a big scuffle erupts. And of course the Animorphs arrive just at the same time, because that's plot convenience for you. We're used to it with Animorphs, and we should be by this point. The Animals come in, wham, bam, bollop. And there's, the big fight. But Taylor appears. You remember Taylor? I hated Taylor back in book 33 because she was such a horrible, cringe villain. And she remains like that in this book, by the way. But yeah, I hated Taylor so much. I mean, you look at Visser 3 as a villain, this incompetent, cliche character. And to an extent, you can sort of accept that. Taylor is like Visser 3 times 10. Visser 30, I imagine. Just evil cackling and hackneyed old cliches and moustache twirling to the extreme. The moustache is like out here and she's twirling it. Yeah, I don't like Taylor, and I don't like her in this book either. Now, up to this point in the book, Tobias has constantly been thinking about Taylor. Remember, the last time we saw Tobias was in that Taylor books, and it's made obvious by this book that ever since that, she's been haunting him. Do we really know the reason why? I think the book, throughout this book, it tries to explain why Taylor haunts him so much, and we do get to that near the end. I'll cover that as we get to it. Not so much as we get to it, but at the end of this video, and in the roundup. Anyway, Taylor takes Tobias and takes him to an old, like, abandoned building with a kitchen, and has all these 10 Dracon beams facing him because, as I say, she's just a cliche villain and, you know, overkill. But she says, I have a deal. Tobias, of course, thinks he's going to get tortured, but she's like, nah, I want you to help me take out Visser 3. And she gives him like a little note that says, find this website. If you agree to take out Visser 3, send me a message. Okay. What are Taylor's reasons for going against Visser 3? Well, she says the following. Civil war is coming, and light, she began. Yerk versus Yerk. We've had enough of the petty Visser fights, the favouritism, the punishments. The council makes us sick. And I looked at that and I thought, the favouritism, the punishments. Do you not remember book 33, Taylor? Where you basically punished Chapman and various of your other underlings just for being there. It seems very Visser 3-like, so... I mean, come the end of this, we know that it's all bullshit, but on the face of it, it just seems very hypocritical. And I don't know why Tobias buys into it. He doesn't really, but he gives her a little bit of, oh, maybe she's telling the truth. No, it's pretty obvious that she's not. She's fucking insane, Tobias. Get a grip. The Animorphs meet in the barn because Tobias has obviously flown back to them, and they discuss this. And of course, and reasonably so, the Animorphs are highly sceptical of this Taylor character. They don't like her, and they know that it's a bad idea to trust her. Now, this is the part that annoyed me regarding Jake, okay? This is the one time where I'd say it was out of character. Sort of out of character, more like he's not going on his experiences. But essentially what he does is he says, Tobias, you make the decisions for us. You make the decisions regarding Taylor. Now, why is this a problem? Books 30 and 31. Mirror images, essentially. Marco and Jake finding out that they are too personally involved in something to make the key decisions. Jake, of course, being one of those two. And now, 12, 13 books later, he's saying to Tobias, you're personally affected by this scenario. What do you think we should do? Jake, come on, mate. We've learned this. Why are you asking Tobias what they should do? He's personally invested in this shit, and you know he is. So why are you doing this now? Have we learnt nothing from books 31 and 30? Oh dear. Either way, they agree to meet with Taylor, so they get a laptop out in the woods where no one can track it, I suppose. And they send a message to Taylor saying, okay, we'll meet. And they go to meet her. Tobias, by the way, has acquired Taylor back when he was first captured at the start of this book. He grabbed a hold of her with a talon and acquired her. So they meet in a Waterstones, which is really cool. Cool, I like Waterstones. He goes in there, the other animals are dotted around here, there, and everywhere as backup, and he goes in as Taylor. Now, of course, this is Taylor without the false arm and plastic surgery and whatever, but essentially still a spitting image of her, and she's shocked at first, says, oh, you're playing your little games with me, are you, Andalite? Well, I'm not falling for that shit. And they sit down at a table and discuss what's going on. Taylor's plan is explained to Tobias. Thusly, listen carefully, she began, her voice hushed. There's a natural gas pipeline, a large one, that runs a kilometre from the Yerk pool. We need to dig a connecting tunnel from that pipeline to the pool. Why? Taylor huffed, arrogant and exasperated. So that the pipe can be ruptured so that thousands of tons of natural gas will spew into the Yerk pool complex, and so that the gas, when exploded, will kill everyone exposed, the hosts, the Yerks. I took a sip of coffee to keep it looking natural. That's what you call a giant leap for democracy? I don't get it. You want to end the violence with a big bang of your own? You think the violence will end there? Surely you see that we need a bargaining chip, Taylor replied. We have to take control of the place and oust Visser 3. We have to get leverage. Without this plan, if the rebels tried a more peaceful protest, the Yerks in orbit would oppose us. But if the plan works, we have a Yerk pool full of hostages. They couldn't attack us without putting their own at risk. Do you not see a problem with this plan? I'll read the main bits to you again. And so that the gas, when exploded, will kill everyone exposed. The hosts, the Yerks. But if the plan works, we have a Yerk pool full of hostages. They couldn't attack us without putting their own at risk. Do you see the problem here, guys? Guys and gals? So Taylor's plan is to blow up everyone in the Yerk pool. Just kablamo. Freaking hosts flying everywhere. Taxons splattered into a million pieces. Hawkbudget just exploding from the sheer banter of it all. And Yerks freaking raining from the sky. No Yerk pool left. It's a smouldering pile of fucking bollocks. And she says, we'll use the hosts as leverage to get what we want. You do realise that the hosts are spread 3 miles in little microscopic pieces. I don't think they're going to be much use when it comes to leverage, honey. Fuck's sake. What plan is that, you wench? I mean, dear God, does Tobias not... He doesn't pick up on it. We're going to kill everyone, and then we're going to use them as leverage so that the Yerks won't attack us in fear of killing their own. They're already dead. Is this not understood, Taylor? So this plan is fucked from the get-go. Plot hole. You could say, oh, she's going to fill the place with natural gas and not explode it straight away. She's going to keep it in there and say, all right, orbit ship. If you don't do as I say, I'd blow it up. But no, because she said she wanted to oust Visser 3, and in order to do that, she'd have to blow it up. So yeah, this plan makes no sense. Not a bit of sense. But anyway, that's the plan that Taylor suggests, and the Animorphs go away to discuss this. And this is my favourite part of the book. My absolute favourite, okay? So they're in the mall, sort of hushed over a table discussing this plan. And they're all in favour. They're all saying, yeah, this is it, this is our chance. We blow up the Yerk pool. Okay, we take out Visser 3, what have you. Axe says it will cause a civil war amongst the Yerks, which is what Taylor is saying will happen. Because, of course, they're all believing Taylor, at least to a degree, thinking that, you know, even if she was lying, it still gives us the opportunity to blow up the Yerk pool, so it's worth taking that choice. And this plays into the main message of this book, by the way. That's right, we get a message in this book. It's been a while. But there's one person in the group that objects. And, of course, it's Cassie. And it's brilliant. This scene in particular is fantastic because this, following on from book 41, is Cassie's fall from the group, essentially. She stands up and she says, what are you guys talking about? You do realise that we'll be killing everyone in this pool. Everyone. Yerks, hosts, everyone. And it comes across that the other Animorphs are very blinkered in their view of it now. Like Marco specifically just says, oh, they're just a bunch of Yerks. And Rachel says that as well. And they all sort of agree, except for Cassie, of course. Tobias is a bit sort of wavering on it. He's the closest to Cassie's position, but he still thinks they should go ahead. And yeah, they all just think they're just Yerks. They're just Yerks. Blow them up. You know, they're attacking us. They're Yerks, whatever. But Cassie's seeing it from the point of view of, Yeah, there's a load of Yerks, but there's also a load of hosts. And also, there are Yerks that are like part of the peace movement, you know, Yerks that don't want this war. But the others say, no, it's what we need to do. Take sacrifice, but we need to do it. They're Yerks, we need to get rid of them. And Cassie says, I'm out. I'm not doing this mission. She doesn't seem to be out of the group. She just says, I'm not doing this particular mission. Do you remember in book 41? Fantastic book, Ellen Giroux's last book, which makes sense, I think, why it's written like this in this book. There was a decision that Jake made at the end that we were never privy to. The decision to save Cassie or to stop the moon being turned into a big Kandrona radiator. Remember, this is a dream, by the way. It did not actually happen, it was a dream. But regardless, we didn't know the decision he made to save the person he loved and somebody who he cared for, or to save everybody, essentially, in that moment, that decision. And we never learnt of the decision. But I thought, considering that he called Cassie straight afterwards and various other little reasons, I thought that he chose to press the big abort button to stop the thing and to allow Cassie to die. I think I've been proven right here, okay? So, this is Jake speaking. The peace movement Yerks are a small minority, Jake countered coldly. We can't really consider them, except maybe to warn them. Not consider them? Cassie repeated disbelievingly. What if your brother's at the pool when the gas explodes? Jake looked at his hands. I guess it's a sacrifice I have to deal with in order to protect thousands more, Jake said, his voice now expressionless. I think that's the clue we need to know the decision that he made in book 41. He pressed the abort button. Even if his brother's down there, it's a sacrifice he has to deal with to save thousands more. Big moment. And the Animorphs, apart from Cassie, are now in that state of mind. And that's where Cassie has diverted from the group. The plot moves ahead. Big important moment, brilliantly executed. Great job, Ellen Giroux. They go to meet Taylor because they have to acquire a taxon morph. A big part of this was that in order to dig from this gas pipeline to the Yerk pool, they needed something that can dig, and Taylor said, taxon. Taxon is the way to go. So Axe and Tobias meet up with Taylor at this old building. I believe it was the pumping station, one of the main locations for this plot. And they meet Taylor there. Tobias is pretending to be an Andalite, so he morphs Axe, and then Axe gives him a strategic haircut to make him look at least a little bit different, and probably being in the dark helped. So Taylor's there and she says, come into my lair, follow me. Now this part annoyed me a little bit because she says, come into this building, you don't know what's in here. And they're just like, fine, walk in. You don't trust Taylor. We know this. You don't trust her. Why are you walking into this building? What you should have done is said, no, bring whatever's in there out here. We will not move from this position. We will not go in there. We believe it's a trap. Deals off if you make us go in there. That's what should have been said. But no, they just saunter in for whatever. But fortunately for them, they weren't killed on the spot, and they go down and acquire this taxon. And they have a deadly little fight with it. But yeah, they managed to acquire it. Later on, they go to where the digging starts. So they go into a big hole in the ground, this pipe thing. And there's a specific section where they're going to start digging. They're in a sewage bit, and there's a hole in the concrete, and they're going to dig through there towards the Yerk pool. And Tobias is first, and he morphs the taxon. And we have this whole discussion beforehand of how the taxon's urges are uncontrollable, virtually uncontrollable. So there will be significant problems. And of course, when he morphs the taxon, he gives into that hunger, but he diverts it towards the hole and starts digging. But once his time is up and he has to come back, he starts to attack the Animorphs. By that point, Taylor has appeared, and she's got a Dracon beam. And she's given it the whole, haha, I'm an evil villain, I shall cross you and I shall say things to irritate you and I'm not entirely trustworthy and all that bollocks. And Tobias comes up and she shoots and stuns him. And there's this whole argument because they're saying, oh, you were going to put it on a higher setting, or you did put it on a higher setting. We don't like you, we don't trust you. Turns out Axe had manipulated the Dracon beam so it couldn't go above setting 3, so it couldn't kill Tobias, so he's just stunned. While he's stunned, he's able to demorph. The other Animorphs and their big battle morphs block Taylor from sight, so she doesn't see him going to red-tailed hawk, and then he goes to Andalite again. Page 87, there's a big revelation here. A lot of people ask the question of, did Tobias trap himself deliberately in morph, or was it completely by accident? This book answers that pretty much 99.9% in my opinion. We get an answer to that. We've just had the instant where Tobias tried to attack Taylor, or didn't try, but naturally went to attack her. My Taxon hunger fused with human hatred. I realised how much easier it would be to eat her than to fight the urge. How much easier it would be even to die than face Yerk Girl. This monster who haunted me day and night with contempt, arrogance, power over me. Had it been like this at the Yerk Pool? Deep beneath the murderous hunger my mind wandered. Had I overstayed the 2-hour time limit so I wouldn't have to face the simple facts of life? Being a boy, living with foster parents, school, Rachel, Taylor. And then it later goes on to say, I hated Taylor because she knew the answer to that question, because she saw weakness in me. She saw it because she was weak herself. People recognised their own kind. She'd sold out to save face, literally. She'd become a voluntary controller and betrayed her own mother because she wanted to be pretty again. It was beyond sad. It was pathetic. Was I different, or was I just like her? I'd trapped myself. Why? I hated Taylor because she knew I was going to destroy her. We get an admission from Tobias that he'd trapped himself. I'd trapped myself. Why did I do that? And there are a couple of other clues thrown into this book as well. Yes, Tobias did trap himself deliberately in morph. This book answers that. The plot continues, so Axe does some more tunnelling, and they're taking it in turns. Axe gets knackered at one point and almost kills himself eating all this soil, but he manages to demorph. Tobias is next, goes along and reaches the edge of the Yerk Pool, and he eats up the concrete and looks inside the Yerk Pool. He sees the horror of the place below. He looks at the exact spot where he became a Nothlit back in book 1. He looks at that spot and he has these flashing memories. We'll cover all those little bits in the roundup. But then, guess who shows up behind him on her own? Taylor. Before that, all the Animorphs have been keeping a close eye on her and what have you. What she's done is she's used her crazy paralysing arm to paralyse them. Guess what, Tobias? You probably should have warned the other Animorphs that she has a paralysing arm. Just a fucking thought, mate. So obviously Taylor has paralysed the other Animorphs and come running after Tobias. After Tobias. And says, we could share in this whole thing together, me and you, because I'm typical cliche bad guy. We join forces and we can rule the galaxy. And all that bollocks. And Tobias says, nuh-uh. So she runs away again. She runs away again to go back to the gas pipeline so that she can blast it and do the job there and then. So Tobias is chasing her as Taxon. Eventually catches up, but it's too late by that point, and Taylor's at the entrance. By the way, why didn't she paralyse him as well? When he said no, at that point where she turns and runs away, why didn't she just go, "Brr, Tobias, sleep," and she didn't have to run, she'd just sort of walk and get to what she needed to do. But no, because she's a freaking idiot and a typical cliche villain who's, you know, taken down by her own hubris. Fuck's sake. Awful fucking villain. But yeah, she gets to this gas pipeline bit and she blows it, and then she gets swept through and she's flung through the tunnel towards the Yerk Pool, cackling as she's flung. It's fucking cringe. And the Animorphs are flung along as well, and they're struggling, whatever. And they get to the very edge of the pool. Tobias is, and they're all clung together, but they're just managing to get a grip, just holding on, about to be blown into the Yerk Pool, essentially to their deaths. And then suddenly the gas stops. It stops. And they're saved. And they wander out. Taylor's nowhere to be seen. We can only imagine she's dead now. She got blown into the yurt pool because they didn't pass her along the way. So she's disappeared. She must have gone to the yurt pool and been killed. We can assume that much. Thank fuck. Why has the gas stopped flowing? They escape the sewer and they go to the pumping station. They find that somebody's gone in there. There are human controllers, like barely alive. They're just sort of strewn over the floor. And the Yerks have basically abandoned their host, which isn't a good sign for the host, let's be honest. They're probably on the verge of death. And they go in and think, who's done this? Did Taylor survive and come do this? No, it turned out to be Cassie. They find her in a back room, crying. She had turned off the gas. And I thought, wow. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. The drama that can come from this is outstanding. So Cassie has decided that she's not going to go on this mission because she thinks that what they're doing is wrong. So just as they're about to complete the mission, she thinks, fuck it, I'm doing what I think is right. And she goes to the pumping station and turns it all off. Says, nope, you're not doing this task. You are not completing this mission. And I thought, wow, this is amazing. And the drama we're going to see come from this moment is going to be groundbreaking. Groundbreaking. And that should surely follow into the next book. This one over here. And the end game is approaching, everyone. The end game. Cassie has betrayed the Animorphs. She's followed her principles rather than going for the cold, hard war tactic. She's separated from the group. Oh shit, that's not what happened, was it? I thought it was. I thought that's what happened. And I was so happy, so excited. I thought, gee, that is such a big thing to happen here. And it works so well. It works brilliantly. But no. What happened? Well, in the last chapter, this book is almost entirely ruined. Turns out that Jake had given Cassie permission to warn the Yerk peace movement. So she called Tidwell and he said, oh, all of our Yerk peace movement come together at the same time in the Yerk pool, and it turns out to be this particular day, so they're all in there. So it turns out that... How did she figure this out again? It just turns out to be speculation from what I've just read. So Cassie thinks, so all the Yerk peace movement are in there on that particular day. Taylor was about to kill the Animorphs, or the Andalite bandits, and the Yerk peace movement, and cause a massive destruction. And Visser 3 was going to blame the Yerk peace faction for it. And not only would he blame them for it, use them as the scapegoat, but he would practically eliminate them all as well to get rid of that problem and the Animorphs problem. So it turns out, or it's speculated, that Taylor and Visser 3 were working together all along. You couldn't have seen that, could you, Animorphs? No. You couldn't have seen that at all. Didn't pass... I mean, it probably did pass the minds, but again, they just... I actually appreciate that in a way, and I'll get to that as we get to the message of this book. But this chapter almost ruined this book for me. Because as I said, I got to that last chapter, just about to read it, and I'd seen this moment with Cassie, and I thought, wow, this is going to be drama in the next book. Cassie has betrayed the Animorphs, and it made sense. And it'd be so interesting to see where it goes from here. But no, she saved the day. She saved the Animorphs, and they're all happy now. Fuck book! Fox, is that a drop the book moment? I don't want to drop it. It's a good book. I don't want to drop it. But you get a swear. That's what you get. You get a fucking swear for that moment. So yeah, Cassie saves the day and everyone's happy, rather than the more dramatic and interesting plot line that was going through my head before I hit that last chapter. And Animorphs does this so often. It builds you up to a point where you think, oh, this is going to be drama now. And it just goes, nope, you're not having that. We're going to have this boring plot instead. Examples of this are book 32, where Mean Rachel is squaring up to Jake and saying, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about it? And I was like, oh, Jake is going to explode. He's going to do something here. And then Eric walks in and just says, hello all, how are you all? Got another shit plot for you that will get you killed. I'm not double-crossing you, by the way. So yeah, there was that. And then there was Visser, where there's a gun held to Darwin's head. You remember Darwin? And it was about to be shot, and you think, what the fuck's going to happen here? There's a decision here. And nope, that gets taken away as well. Drama gone. Just too much for a kid's book, apparently. And it's happened again here, where I had this feeling of, Cassie's done it. She's actually gone and done it. And then it's just like, no, she saved the day because she speculated something. Complete letdown. It almost ruined the book for me. This book is saved because of some of the other stuff that goes on. Firstly, let's get the major negatives out of the way. Yeah, that bit at the end, that last chapter, almost ruined it. The big problem with, apart from the plot holes, of course, I've explained the plot holes. They're not too bad. Pretty bad, but not too bad. Taylor. This villain is crap. She really is an awful villain. Honestly, she is so full of tropes, so full of cliches, and she's just not very convincing to me. I just don't like her. Just not very intimidating, particularly. And put it this way, this book, apart from the obvious flaws, it's really good. It's written very well. The messages in this are deep, heartfelt, and I think spot on. So imagine this book is a landscape painting. Really nice brush strokes and like realistic, and it almost looks like the real thing. Really nice piece of work. Properly done. Professional artist, Michelangelo, that sort of stuff. Vincent, not so much Vincent van Gogh, he's not really sweet. Whatever. Brilliant picture. Lifelike. You look at it and think, that's a piece of art. And then you draw a stick figure on the front with a stupid fucking smiley face. There's your book. That stick figure is Taylor. It's like that to me. It just ruins the whole thing. Why have you put that there? What the fuck? You had such a good thing and you just wallop a frickin' stick man on there with wonky eyes. I don't know. That's just how Taylor feels to me. It's just a dampener on the whole book. After reading this book, I get what they were trying to do with Taylor. It's a vehicle to show Tobias what's gone on with him. Let's cover some of the best stuff in this book. Firstly, we find out Tobias did trap himself in Morph. He did it deliberately. Why did he do it? Because he was weak. He was weak. He couldn't face his own life. He took the easy way out. He didn't want to have to deal with the hard things. He wanted the easy way. He wanted the easy way. And that's why he did it. Same thing with Taylor. She got these horrible disfigurations, all that. She thinks, I can't handle going through life with this. The sharing is offering me a way to fix this, to make it all better, the easy way. And she takes it. There is the parallel there between Tobias and Taylor. And then you compare that to the Taxons, which are a major part of this book. They are weak. They are so weak. So they spend all their time eating. This ferocious hunger, this need for something. What do the Animorphs do in this book? What's their plan? When they first get given this plan of blowing up the yurt pool. This is where it all connects, by the way. This is where it all connects, and Ellen Giroux does a great job of it. The Animorphs know that they're weak. They know that there's only 6 of them. They are weak. They have flaws. What's the easy thing to do? Blow up the whole yurt pool, sod the consequences, sod any innocents that are in there. We know we're weak, so we're going to go for that drastic action. That's what this is about. I think this relates to the very first part of the book as well, with Bobby McIntyre. It would have been so easy for Tobias to just turn around and say, this is too much of a problem, not my thing. But no. He's got Taylor in his mind, telling him how weak he is, and he's saying to himself, no, I will not be weak. I will go forward and I will take this on, even though it comes with great risk. That is the big message of this book, right? Being weak means that you are liable to taking drastic measures. That's the big thing about this book, and I think it's done so well. Really done well. Despite the flaws of this book, this thing stands above it all. Remember my old cake analogy, right? The icing on this cake is a bit crap, you know, it's like just shit. But the innards of it, the spongy centre, is delectable. Delectable. It's one of those books. Beautiful on the inside once you get past the plot holes and the tailor and all that bollocks, okay? So, yeah, it's really good. It's very deep, this book. There's a lot. I could go on to write an essay about this. It hasn't all gone into my head. I've noticed with Ellen Giroux that she is very good at putting in little messages in there and not making it obvious. It's not on the nose. It's the same with The Familiar. So many themes going through it that I can't just stand here now after reading the book once and tell you it all. There's stuff I'm probably missing. Little clues here or there, little metaphors and what have you. But she's very good at putting those in there. Not so much in book 33. I think we can write that off as she was just a first attempt at Animorphs and it was a bit shit. But 41 and 43 very much follow that. Ellen Giroux's big problem is plotting. Big problem for Ellen Giroux is the plot. Right, for book 33, there were some major plot issues. Major plot issues. The execution was what really let that book down. Book 41 was perfect for Ellen Giroux. Why was it perfect? Because it was a dream state. There didn't need to be any logical sequences. It didn't have to be logical, necessarily. This book, again, great with all the metaphors, great with all the little underlying messages, but the plot it has problems. So, yeah, we know the strengths and weaknesses of this writer. And she will be back for book 47, I believe, book 47. And I actually look forward to it. I do, because I'm certainly more of a messages type of guy. I like that sort of stuff more than I do like your major plot points. So it's more of a positive than a negative for me. This book was exciting as well. Let's not forget that despite the plot problems, I could not put this book down. And that's always a sign of a book that I really enjoy. So yeah, a bit of a mixed bag, this one, but I think the positives vastly outweigh the negatives, namely Taylor. Scores time. What do I give Jake in terms of score? He didn't do much. He left it mostly to Tobias. Jake didn't really make any decisions and he left it all to somebody else who was emotionally compromised, as we discussed earlier. Remember books 30 and 31. So I'm going to give Jake... I'm going to give him a 4. We didn't see much of him. I think if we had seen more, it probably would have gone down to a 3. But yeah, 4 because he let Tobias take over when probably shouldn't have. So not great, Jake. As for the book itself, this is difficult. Up to the last chapter, and before I did this review, I thought about giving it a 10 out of 10. The last chapter certainly brought that down. And as I spent today thinking about the book overall, figuring out the plot holes and that, it is getting dragged down. I mean, it's a great book, but it's sort of hovering between 8 and 9. Yeah, the combination of Taylor being such an awful villain, the plot holes, and yeah, depriving us of that Cassie ending. Yeah, 3 major problems there. I'm going to give it an 8. An 8. If it weren't for it having so many brilliant underlying messages, it would probably be knocked down even further, but it is saved by those positives. So yeah, this book is an 8 out of 10. Not bad at all. Well done. And actually, I think it's a great book for Tobias. Brilliant book. It's about time we got a Tobias book where he moves forward as a character. Next up, the unexpected. The kangaroo one. Now, I don't know what to expect from this. I don't know. Yeah, it is going to be unexpected, isn't it? I don't actually know if I read this book when I was younger. Honestly, I don't know if I read this one. This might be one of the only Animorphs books that I didn't read. So I do not know what's coming. I know it's got a very negative perception amongst the Animorphs community, but then so did 41. So who knows, maybe I'll be surprised. Find out next week. and I'll see you then. Thank you very much for watching. Have a good day. Ta-ra!